What's going on, guys? Jerry Neutron here, and I just wanted to do a quick overview of this motherboard I'm going to be using in an upcoming build. By the way, make sure you guys subscribe if you do want to see that. But anyway, this is the ASUS Strix B250F Gaming, which is an Intel motherboard, if you guys didn't know, designed to work with the latest Kaby Lake processors. Now, I know people will say the IPC gains with Kaby Lake are non-existent, or Intel isn't even trying anymore, long live AMD, and that kind of stuff, but the biggest attraction to this platform for me is actually the chipset improvements. So with all the new chipsets, you generally get more PCIe lanes, which can be used for things like M.2 slots, as well as more high-speed I/O. For example, the B250 chipset has a maximum of 12 PCIe lanes compared to 8 from the B150 chipset. Of course, keep in mind that is in addition to the 16 PCIe lanes from the CPU. B250 gives you up to 12 USB 2.0 ports, and you also get 6 USB 3.0 ports. Now, more than likely, you will see variations in this between motherboard manufacturers. It all depends on how they choose to divide up the available lanes. There's also a possibility that there's a third-party controller on board, which would give you access to additional USB ports. Now, with that said, let's take a look at what this specific board offers. So as you can see, this is a color neutral board, which gives you plenty of options in terms of color scheme. Everything here, including the chipset and VRM heatsinks, are black and gray themed. You get 5 4-pin fan headers, which can operate in PWM or DC mode. One of them is actually an AIO pump header, which is kind of an interesting thing to have for a non-overclocking chipset. I could see something like this being useful maybe for an ITX board where you may have limited space to work with, but I'm not so sure on its use case in this scenario. On this Strix board, you also get 2 USB 3.0 headers, which I assume is for cases that have 4 USB 3.0 ports up front. I haven't actually seen any, I don't think, but maybe that's something to come in the future. As for storage, you get 6 SATA 6 ports, RIP SATA Express, that's not on this board here. There's 2 M.2 slots. The top one is SATA, and the bottom one is PCIe 3.0 by 4. This does mean there is no M.2 RAID 0 support, so if that's something that you want, you'll probably want to look into grabbing the H270 or Z270 version of this board. This also has Intel Optane support on the top M.2 slot. You just have to make sure you're running a Kaby Lake i3, i5, or i7 processor. As for the PCIe slots, the top reinforced one is running at a by 16, the other at by 4, which means no SLI support. You'll have to jump to the Z270 platform for that. And the rest of the little slots here are by 1 slots. Towards the bottom left of the board, we've got our Supreme Effects audio, which you can see the little Nichicon capacitors right below that. You'll also notice there's a separation in the PCB surrounding the audio area of the board. Apparently this is done to prevent like EMI and things like that. It's actually a pretty common thing to see on motherboards these days. At the bottom of the board, you've got an RGB header that will allow you to control an RGB strip using the ASUS Aura software. You RGB freaks should also be happy to know that the board itself has RGB lighting over in the top right corner, so whenever the system is on, you'll have your own personal little light show. And lastly, on the rear I/O, you've got your analog audio and optical connection, 2 USB 3.0 ports, Intel Gigabit LAN, which is a plus for me. I tend to have a better experience with that in comparison to something like killer networking. There's also 2 USB 2.0, a PS2 port, some video connectors in case you're using integrated graphics, 2 USB 3.1 ports via an ASMedia controller. These have a 3 amp power output, by the way, so if you have a cell phone that supports quick charging, it should no longer take like 7 days to charge your phone through USB. And then you've got 2 more USB 2.0 ports down at the end. Okay, so I went ahead and installed some parts, got the system booted up, and here's what you would look at when you go into the BIOS for the first time. So this is kind of the, I guess you could call it the easy mode, which basically just has your main or your most important information displaying on the screen here. So as you can see, you've got like your CPU information, your memory, CPU temperatures, you have your RAM status and SATA information. I don't have any drives installed right now. So of course that says NA. And then below that you've got your fan profiles. So we can see here the CPU fan is running at just over 1,000 RPM right now. You have access to the Q fan control, which will allow you to make changes to your fan speeds. And then over in the top right corner, you've got an easy system tuning that basically allows you to switch between a normal mode or a power saving mode, and then of course your boot priority. So let's just let me just show you them actually while I'm talking about them real quick here. So the XMP profile right here, I am running 2666 megahertz RAM, so I have the option to set the profile there. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't actually know if it's going to run at that speed because, of course, you know, the native speed is 2400 or 2133. So I'm not sure if that's going to work on a B250 board, but we'll find out in a minute here. So we'll just leave that as disabled for now. And then if we go into the Q fan control, here we can set fan profiles. And now this is what I like about having a sort of, I wouldn't say a high-end board, but better than the basics because they give you fan profiles. I really hate motherboards that just give you like one speed to set because you can't really get a quiet system that way. So as you can see right now, it's got a standard fan profile on it for my CPU fan, and then you can go between like silent and turbo mode or full speed, and you can also set manual, which is nice. You also have the option there to switch between PWM or DC mode depending on your configuration there. So that's nice. I definitely like that. On the other side here, if I can get to it, you can see here the easy tuning. So you can switch between a power saving mode, which will limit your performance a little bit to conserve power, and then the normal mode, which is what I would always leave it at. So yeah, nothing too complicated there, but pretty nice and simple and kind of easy to understand. So if we go into the advanced mode here, this is what you would normally see in most BIOS here. So it's pretty much the same thing, but with all of your options rather than just the main ones here. So again, you get your processor and BIOS information here on this main page. Under the AI tweaker is normally where you would see overclocking type of stuff if you were using a Z270 board. Since we're on B250, of course we won't see that, but you do have some other options here as well. So again, you can set your XMP profile under the AI overclock tuner. You've got power saving mode again that you can set there. You can set your RAM frequency. And if you scroll down here, you've got stuff like your Digi Plus VRM, which allows you to play with like the LLC and stuff like that. So you can also set your core voltage here manually. Well, a couple different voltages manually, which is interesting. I don't know if you'd want to do that, being that you can't really overclock, but the option is there. So yeah, nothing too bad. Pretty much what I've come to expect from ASUS boards, and nothing looks too out of place there. I won't show you everything in the BIOS here because some of the stuff's not really all that worth going through, but you know, it's got just a couple random options there. You can like enable or disable hyper threading, stuff like that in the BIOS. And then under the monitor tab, of course, you can see your CPU, motherboard temps, your fan speeds. I would, which is what you would normally see if I had some fans connected here. Of course, I don't at the moment, but you can see their RPMs, all that kind of stuff. Down here is the Q fan configuration, which should be a screen similar to what we were looking at previously, just kind of in text form. But here you can set a, you can go through kind of like this, I don't know what to call it, but with Q fan tuning, it'll go through this little process to figure out your minimums and your maximums for your fans, and then it will kind of set duty cycles for them automatically. Or you can go in here and do it yourself. So again, you've got PWM mode or DC mode or auto. You can let auto detect which mode it's in, depending on the fan, whether it's like 4-pin, 3-pin, whatever. You can set your fan profiles for it, so standard, silent mode, turbo, or manual. And then you can do that for the chassis fans as well, so that's nice. This AIO pump control, I guess you could do PWM or DC mode. Again, I don't know why there's a AIO pump fan header on this motherboard. I don't know. You probably should not install a AIO if you're on the B250 platform. It's not really going to do you any good unless you just like seeing lower temps just because. So yeah, aside from that, that's pretty much it as far as the BIOS goes. Again, it's pretty simple, but what I would expect from ASUS, it looks pretty solid for me. Again, you're not going to be in here much probably because you're not going to do any overclocking, but you at least have the option to come in here and set like your memory frequency and your fan control and stuff like that. So that's nice. So yeah, anyways guys, I think that's pretty much it as far as a overview of the Strix B250F gaming motherboard. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Go ahead and like this video if you like this type of content. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, see ya.